Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann, the podcast where entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals share tips, strategies, and trends in their area of expertise. They also talk about their successes and struggles along their career and business journey. If you love to learn through storytelling and find people fascinating, join us. Welcome back to another episode of Rev Up Your Potential. My guest today is Ingrid Taheri. She is the founder, executive, and artistic director of High Notes Avante. It's a registered charity that really helps people with mental illness to connect through sound, music, and a beautiful, beautiful passion for doing this, Ingrid. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Hilda, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you and I first met years ago at a breakfast networking thing, and you shared about High Notes Avante at the time, and you obviously explained that this was helping people with mental health and really developing and nurturing and going beyond their health challenges. And at the very end, the nurse in me was so interested about the passionate work you were doing. I came up to you and started chatting with you, to which you then said, "Do you notice?" I said, "Notice what?" She said, "Nobody else has come up to talk to me. It's like there's a stigma around mental health." So that introduction obviously connected us, but I want the listeners to understand that, yes, mental health is not easy to talk about for many people, but Ingrid's here, I'm here, and we want to raise that awareness. So Ingrid, tell me more about High Notes Avante. Let us know more about it.
Okay, I will do that. Thanks for refreshing my memory of that meeting. I do remember it, and it's so true. Uh, Thankfully, nowadays, more people will talk to me at these breakfasts. So we have done a bit of what I set out to accomplish, which is really to raise the image of mental illness. Right? It has an image problem. And the method we're using, not necessarily because it's the absolutely best method out there, but you have to use the tools that are available to you. So my background is music and it is communications as well. I was a piano teacher for a while, so I did put on recitals, and I could get people to show up for that. And I also grew up watching like the Oscars and the Grammys, and I really kind of noticing that music is really, really powerful in creating social change. Musicians and artists have always been like a couple of steps ahead of the rest of the population when it comes to advocating for, if it was gay rights or if it was poverty or something like that. So combination of those ideas with having a mental health story myself. Our hashtag is we all have a story, because really we all have a story when it comes to mental health. Sometimes it's really close to us. It could be your child, it could be your sibling, it could be your spouse, it could be your parent, an uncle, a cousin, or it could be a friend. Or it could be yourself, right? And I'm sure we all at some point struggle with our mental health at some point. So really what we say is that we are helping people who have been touched by mental illness, because if you suffer from a mental health situation, it is not only the person that's suffering, right? It's also the people around you. So really, we should talk about it because we need to share, right? What can be done and how we can help each other. So that's a part of the answer. Another part of the answer is also that music, to me personally, has been like medicine and therapy. Whether I was struggling with something or working through things. So I really, really believe that music can help us feel better and express what it is that we are going through, and it heals. I mean, do you want me to keep on going, or should I stop at this
Well,
point? Because I can keep on going a little bit
I will
about
I will first note and admire your, is it a baby grand or a grand piano that's behind there?
mid-sized grand. Yeah, it's a model L, they call it. So it's right in the middle of the six models that they have at this time.
It has a distinctive, like, the lift up on it, it's just not an upright. It's definitely some kind of
Yeah.
baby grand piano. You said everybody has a mental health story, and
Mhm.
obviously you started High Notes Avante because there's a mental health story. Would you be comfortable sharing your story with us?
I will share as much as I feel that it's my right to share. So I do have, I had, I should say, a father who suffered from mental illness. I had a sibling who did as well. And I had somebody even closer to that in my family that really made me want to make something better out of a dark situation, something very difficult. And I found that being able to tell the stories of, uh, my father or my sibling to this other person that's really close to me helped us because, as you said, nobody really talks about it. Once you've been through it, they feel embarrassed and ashamed. Uh, and knowing that people that you admire and love have been through something like that really helped this other individual to realize that we're going through something temporarily. Um,
Yeah.
not as much as I'm entitled to share, because it's really not my own story to share.
I know, what you're saying, and I value that. That's why I asked permission, and thank you for sharing because, the statistics, and you know them, but it's 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health challenge. I call it mental health challenge, you call it mental illness. And that
Yeah.
statistic actually has gone up through COVID, 20% increase, which means it's more like 1 in 4 people have been affected by this. So it is a very high statistic, and yet we are not comfortable. As a society, we just don't know how to do that. And one other point is, as much as I can share, because these stories are not your personal stories, they are stories of loved ones. And it is not our right to share our loved one's story because it is their story, but it is as much as you can share. So I appreciate that. But to hear you say that this is why you have combined your love of music with the mental health. And for my listeners, tell us how what the Avanti High Notes music and mental health. How do you bring these two together in your
Uh,
charity?
wow. It's I just reached out to right and left and dreamt loud and far, and I believe that sometimes when everything aligns up together, it will work out. So I reached out to people that I knew in my network. I had recently completed a piano performance certificate from the Royal Conservatory as an adult, and I had wonderful mentor there that helped me find the right artist that had some stories as well that were supportive of the cause. And having sort of been between work situations and having a little time to explore, I thought I would just do a one-time event, really, to bring awareness and use music potentially as a fundraiser for the Canadian Mental Health Association. Uh, we did raise a little bit of money, but really nothing worth the time and effort that I had put into it. So uh, it went from being a fundraiser for somebody else to, how can we make this happen again? Because the feedback was wonderful. People did come out and they said, thank you so much for doing this. We need this. And now it's almost 10 years since the first gala event at the Flattermark Theatre in 20.
Wow.
And we're doing another one after a few years of silence due to COVID when it came to gala stuff this March 27th. And I know that people come up to me a lot more now and they like, oh, this is so good what you're doing. We want to come, we want to help. And I have some amazing performers involved and
So,
people sharing stories.
so this is why we're bringing this tape on. I'll just make a side anecdote. I remember pre-COVID, I attended, and Luba Goya was the MC, and
Mhm.
Lloyd Robertson actually
Oh,
was on. He was actually speaking, and I'm thinking, oh, he's been touched. Like he might have had mental health, and yet he's on a newscaster who's regularly, day in, day out, providing the news. But it was his mother, and he shared that story. And I love how you weave the magic of music and entertainment with the actual um, storytelling of people, because that brings to heart. And some of the people that you had were people who had suffered mental health and came back to perform now on the stage. So you are hosting it again, this gala, and it's going to be March 27th. Tell us more about, you said you've got some interesting people that are going to come. Share the gala for us.
sure. Yeah, so just before we get to that, if it's okay with you, I like to just say that we no longer only do this. During COVID, we started programs that smaller scale. So we have book club and movie club and choir. And most recently, we started music lessons as well for people who have been touched by mental illness. So we are growing and we're very excited about really advocating for music as medicine. So on that note, one of the speakers at this year's gala is a professor. His name is Frank Russo, who's made it his specialty to study music as medicine, and he'll speak about that. There is going to be a very famous, not by name, but by recognition. If I start singing 967 11 11, like that's a composer who wrote that. This composer has a story to share that is very
Oh,
fascinating.
that'll be nice.
And there will be a couple of our old friends there. So we have Lily Frost, who is a Sumo radio host, as well as a singer and songwriter. Some of her music appeared on Grey's Anatomy and other shows. We have a new friend of ours. His name is Ernesto Ramirez. He's a tenor from Mexico. He also has a mental health story, but he has an amazing voice. So you don't want to miss that. Michael Bridge and Yolanda Bruno, they are a duo, quite an unusual duo. It's a digital accordion, which sounds like a whole orchestra, and then it's the violin. So Yolanda's daytime job or nighttime job, I guess we would call it, is to play for the TSO. Also from the TSO is David Hetherington.
Mhm.
He is now part of the Amici Chamber Ensemble, but he used to be the principal cellist in the TSO. So he's going to play a beautiful solo piece called The Soulmate. We have Ballet Jurgen performing
Oh,
music.
will they?
Yeah, they are absolutely amazing. So there's something for everybody. Every segment is no longer than 10 minutes long. So if you're worried about, oh, I don't like classical music, or I don't like the accordion, I don't like dance, I don't like talking, I don't like singing, don't worry about it,
It's a
because
variety show.
and it's so inspiring.
Wow.
And really, we're creating a community where everybody feels safe and
I
just
know that when I went that time with my friend, I
mhm,
was so impressed with those who had been performers, and then they had a mental illness, and they couldn't get out of bed, they couldn't do anything, but somehow they got better to the point that they were ready to get back out there and entertain live. And to go there, that's a lot of courage, right? And so I couldn't help but admire the journey that it must have taken to come from, mental illness in such a capacity that they were not feeling functional enough to then feeling confident enough to go on stage. Like, maybe not confident as they might have been before, but confident enough to do that.
being
So
healing
Great.
journey.
Now, where is it happening this year?
Oh, it's at the Markham Theatre, which is just in Markham by Highway 7 and Warden, right next to Unionville High School and the town center there.
Mm,
Yes, that's where it is.
yes. So people can do a lookup on Markham Theater to get tickets, or how do you suggest they purchase tickets?
There's a couple of ways you can get it. You can buy them in person there. You can call their phone number, which is 905 305 show 7469. You can go on their website. You can go on our website. So, there are a couple of ways to
Yeah.
contact. You can even contact me and I'll help you get tickets if you like to
Cool,
get.
cool, cool. So I have to put this a little aside in that 967-1111. My husband was working late in the office, and he said, "Okay, we're going to be here for a while. Let's go order a pizza." And they said, "Yeah, yeah, I feel like a pizza. That's good, good." And so he's going to the phone book, and they were going to order pizza. And they said, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm looking up the phone number." And they all looked at him and they said, 967. And then everybody, 1111. He said, "Right."
I've been in Canada 35 years now, and I think that's the first jingle that stuck with me because I think my now husband was driving as a delivery guy for Pizza Pizza. So it's very
Yes.
exciting.
Yes. Well, I'll look forward to hearing the creator and tell my husband, guess who I met at
Yeah.
the end.
So, and actually, there's a lot of other jingles, but he's not only a jingle writer. He writes music for serious music, and we are really excited that together we are writing the High Notes Avante theme song for the 10-year anniversary as well. So that's coming up in the future show.
What a milestone, Ingrid. And for you to say that, I can't remember how long ago it was. It was at least 7 years ago, maybe. And to hear you say that people are coming up to you now, it's becoming more comfortable to have a discussion with people about mental health. Um, can this is your comfort. This is your area of expertise, this combination of music and this combination of mental illness. Can you share some either observations that you see over the years or some tips and strategies that will help people who say, I don't know what to say to somebody when they have mental illness? Like, how do I have a conversation? Maybe they feel awkward. So give us some things that will help us as people who are dealing with and want to help people who are dealing with mental illness.
Well, we, I'm not an expert when it comes to exactly what to do, but I mean, the most important thing, I guess, for any human being is to have hope that things will get better. And that's what we are doing with anything we do behind us. We want to show there is hope, right? We're showcasing individuals who struggle but now are living functional lives. They may not be illness free, but you're still able to function and do well. So listen to them, say, I'm here for you, anything I can do for you. You don't have to say, it's so frustrating, even if you feel it. I mean, I definitely understand that it seems so frustrating why somebody can't get themselves out of bed to go to an appointment that could be so important. Maybe you struggle for a very, very long time to get that appointment. But you have to be understanding and realize that we're dealing with an illness. It's not visible, doesn't necessarily have a quick fix. But then cancer doesn't always have that either, right? So you have to be patient and just show compassion, right? Show compassion, show respect for them. And again, be there. And don't be afraid to share some story that you may have of somebody else, but at the same time, be sensitive because maybe they're not ready to hear it, right? They don't want to compare themselves to anybody else. Um, so it's a complex answer, and I'm not sure I answered it correctly, but I think you just have to feel it out.
You shared it from your heart, and I love the words you use, the compassion, listen, you know, and it's okay to say, I want to be here, for you, but I don't know how I can do it. But just know that I want to be here. I want to learn how I can help you. I mean,
Mhm.
that says that you're not going to say the right things always, but you want to do what you can to help. So I think, some of these commercials now that are, you're not alone.
Mhm.
Please don't feel you're alone, because you don't want somebody to commit suicide because they feel there is no hope. And I think that was the big thing, is that, that there is hope. And I think earlier in the conversation you talked about whatever we're going through, it's temporary, and
Mhm.
we will get out of this together, right?
Yeah.
They will, and you will. Because oftentimes you're right. It's not just the person that's affected, it's the whole family unit that's affected.
And of course, there are situations where maybe treatment is not available. Just let's just compare to cancer. It's not always possible to get treatment. Sometimes it's not workable, but you have to have the hope and you have to try and know that in most cases help is available and things will get better again. And
I think people who mean well need to realize it's not it's not a quick fix, it's a journey. And
yeah,
so when you ask, you some people ask so often, they expect these miracles to happen every week, big changes, but it's happens over time. It's slower. It's a slower process.
another thing that we are really working on is really to promote music and artistic expression in general, because the society has sort of moved away from encouraging participation in the arts. You have to get a real job and all that, but and that's fine. But music and the arts, we all need some kind of outlet, and if you cannot say it in words, maybe you can dance it out, maybe you can run it out, maybe you can uh, raise it out. You need something that is not just in front of a screen. Like you need an instrument, maybe you want to be part of a discussion circle. So you have to find something else like that. And that is why we are now offering free music lessons for people who have been touched by mental illness. And we are very proud that we can do that, because it is also scientifically proven that participating, especially in group music uh, execution, I guess I should say, or singing, will decrease cortisol levels and improve the good happy hormones. So it is an area to pursue when it comes to treatment as well,
You know,
and prevention. Mm,
and it's so therapeutic for people with mental illness, but it's therapeutic for everybody,
exactly,
right?
and maybe prevent it to going in the wrong direction if you are allowed to do everything in moderation, right?
Mm.
Pressure.
The ballet jargon kind of excited me, because one of my joys, because I love music, but one of
Mhm.
my joys is dance, and particularly ballet. And I remember there was one point in one of my jobs where I was going to be laying off 20 people the next day, and the letters still had to be finalized. A few things had to be coordinated and executed, and emails had to be sent. And I was driving home and I thought, should I go to my ballet class or shouldn't I go to my ballet class? And I'm going to work on stuff. And I thought, no, going to ballet class, it de-stresses me. It excites me. It energizes me. So I I went to the class and it did exactly what I thought it would do. It would it would clear my mind, give me a fresh start. So when I got home, I could do all the things that I needed to do, probably in half the time, with less stress than if I had just come home, ate dinner quickly, and started to do that. So I understand the power of music or dance or those forms of
And your mind
energy
off.
to bring us together. Your passion shines through when you and I have conversations about your work, and I really value it, and I'm glad that it's starting to do that ripple. The creek is getting bigger and bigger, and it's becoming a river, and your kind of take on helping people with mental illness through the power of music and through the power of entertainment, and bringing people who have gone through a journey and who are entertainers and performers. This is really helping us see that things are possible. Hope is possible. We can make that change. One of the things I talk about, and hence the name of the podcast, Rev Up Your Potential, is that concept of values of those of Rev Up, which is respect, equality, valued uniqueness, and potential. And I invite you to share your thoughts on this Rev Up concept. Does that align with you, your work, your beliefs?
Absolutely. I do believe that you do kind of have to just everybody deserves respect. So of course, people who have been touched by mental illness deserves respect too, and they're not getting enough respect. So that's why we're working on what we're doing, and they should be valued because they're just human beings like everybody, and we all do have a story. So we might as well own up to it. Equality. Again, it goes back to us all being humans, and whether you have this disease or no disease, disabilities, whatever, you need to be valued and respected, as you said. And the potential, everybody deserves a chance, whether they have a disability or not. And I feel that I kind of owe it to myself that I might have this potential also in this unique concept to continue to follow through it as much as I can, because I do think this is my biggest contribution in life, except for maybe having my own children that will contribute to society as well. But, what do I want to be remembered from when I'm not here anymore? I like to be remembered for having used all the powers that were in my potential to uh, create more compassion, respect, and equality for people touched by mental illness.
Looking back on this 10 years of
Mhm.
work that you have done, what would you say are things that you're most proud of?
Ah, gosh, getting notes from people who have been in the hospital for 6 months and so on, thanking me for making their lives better. During COVID time, when we started our online programs, getting again notes for people saying, "This is the highlight of my week. Thank you." Uh,
Mm.
Also, after working really, really hard and for nothing, and maybe sometimes driving to a parking lot the night before we were airing something during COVID, that at once people viewed it. I got a check for $1,000 from a person I never met in my life because she was touched by what we did. Uh,
Mm.
and being approached by news about the free music lessons that we are offering, that was also wonderful. That somebody realized that this is something special. There are many moments, but those are the ones that pop up right now.
I hear that you are doing what you wanna do. You wanna create this legacy, and part of it's the joy that you get in giving and supporting. I applaud that. I really applaud that. Just I love that. I love that. So, what piece of advice would you give to our listeners now? We've had this conversation, you've shared the work you're doing and how helpful it is. What advice would you give to us that you feel is important to share?
In general, be kind to each other, be understanding, do have compassion, and don't be afraid to share a story because most likely the person you're sharing your story will has a story to share as well, and we can learn from each other by doing that. Uh, be a little bit less timid and really do go for your potential, whether it is to get help or to make a difference in society.
And it's so interesting because sometimes when we have the courage to share our journey, we find we're not alone, that that person who is hearing that story has a similar journey and they've been heartened by your share.
Mhm.
So I encourage people to support each other, to share your story. We have a story, a mental health story, because close to 1 in 4 people have been touched, either
Right.
personally or they have a loved one, a friend, a close colleague that has gone through this. So sharing stories really helps us get more comfortable
Yeah.
talking about it and to heal, at times to heal.
And you do not have to share the story everywhere you go. It's okay to just make sure you share the right person to share it with.
Yes, yes.
And if you would like to be in a community where you know other people have the same story, then please do go on to our website and look for different programs that we offer for people touched by mental illness, because it's also just an escape from your illness, right?
Mhm.
You don't want to necessarily talk about it all the time because it's tough and it's hard. But maybe participating in a program such as a book club or a movie club or music lessons will just keep your mind on something else, but you're in a safe environment, which is nice too, right? And then if you need to, you can share a little bit. once in a while.
Yes. How do people get a
Yeah,
hold of you, and a reminder
yeah,
of where
that's
people
true.
can buy tickets to that gala that's on March 27th at the Markham Flatto Theater?
But the tickets again is at the Flatter Market Theatre. It's also accessible through High Notes Avante.ca. If you like, you can call me 416-605-8915. It's amazing how little people do make phone calls these days. I'm actually comfortable with giving that number. And there are links on the on the website that you can email as well. And there's a Facebook event, so please like it and share it. And there are links to tickets there as well.
Well, thank you, Ingrid, for taking the time to talk about mental illness, music, and the joy of bringing those together to help people. Thank you for sharing your gala, and thank you for sharing your passion about how you decided to create High Notes Avante.
Thank you so much, Hilda, for inviting me in conversation that we started a few years ago.
You're welcome, and thank you very much again, Ingrid. And thanks to those who are listening or viewing the podcast. I really appreciate that you take the time to learn about other people's stories and struggles and successes along the way. And if you like it, give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to Rev Up Your Potential. And thank you again, everybody. Have a great day and rev up your potential. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.